All right, we're hot and we're ticking. Oh wow, we're ahead of schedule. Nothing wrong with that. Are you ready to get into it, or do we need to preamble some?
I'm ready. I was just doing a little research into this video that I was telling you about.
Okay, well, let's roll the music. Then let's talk about your video.
Well, apparently it's old news.
Welcome once again to Shiftless,
where we talk about bikes.
The podcast that's only about bicycles.
I got so much shit at TNSS last night about our last episode. He's like, I won't tell you who it was, but...
Why not?
He said, God damn it, do you guys ever talk about bikes? I was like, well...
I wonder who that might have been.
I was like, well, I tried. Oh, shit.
I don't want to hear that from him, because how many times has his name been dropped in these episodes?
I never said his name.
True.
In fact, his voice was changed to protect his anonymity.
Oh, okay. Do we have a recipe yet?
No, I forgot to hit him up for that. We did have a great TNSS last night, though. The weather was freaking perfect. Trail is about as good as that trail gets. I mean, hard pack, grippy, just almost blue groove, just nice.
It should be awesome next week after this next round of rain rolls through.
I think we all need a little bit of rain.
We need a little bit.
Yeah, we built those berms over on South Lakes, and I can't. If we had a hose there, they would bed in so much quicker.
Sure.
But I can't wait for the rain to come. I mean, we'll have to go back and backfill because a lot of that aggregate and stuff's going to go between the larger stuff, the riprap and stuff. But I can't wait to see how they bed in, because right now it's kind of loose. But anyways, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to some rain. I don't know if the weather's going to get colder. I'm almost ready for it to get cold. I got stacks of firewood, ready to burn a fire.
Don't jinx us, man.
Yeah.
Don't jinx us. We don't need another Ice-mageddon.
Well, I thought you meant jinx us in the opposite way. It's kind of like every time I bring my rain jacket, it doesn't rain. You know. But I need to fire up the pizza oven too. But I've got one more busy week, and then I'm just stop Luna. And then I'm just making gumbo next week, and that's it. So massive amounts of gumbo.
What day do you expect gumbo to be ready?
Thursday. I'm gonna do porch pickup like we do every year. Thursday and Friday.
All right.
Gumbo and rice.
All right. Is a gallon too much to ask for?
No. In fact, my first order was 6 quarts.
Oh, is it up for order?
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it.
Man, I don't know. I need to get better at social media advertisement, but that's another thing altogether. I'm not a self-promoter, you know?
Okay.
And that's one of the things my wife fusses at me about. She's like, you need to do more for yourself. And I'm like, but, I mean, do I? Whatever.
It might be an interesting project for me to collaborate with you. Is that something you might be interested in?
I am... I will never turn down help from anybody of any capacity because I'm a bumbling idiot. I boil water for a living, you know. It's what I do, and I try to ride my bike on occasion. So I mean, website, all that stuff. Like Caleb is a godsend with that stuff.
Sure.
I mean, he basically built my I had another lady help me with my website to begin with, and it was.
And he fine-tuned it.
He said, fuck this.
I was trying to be
and
generous.
started over, but
I was trying to be generous.
He's amazing. But I wanted to talk about, I don't know why this had never been on my radar, and I hadn't heard about it before, so excuse me if everybody else on Earth knows about this, but we all know Lance Armstrong got busted for doping.
He did?
Yeah. Well, hold up. I'm getting there. So that's nothing new, but I saw a video the other day that was talking about not only was he blood doping, EPO, all that, he was also mechanical doping, meaning his bike had a motor assist in it. And that was news to me.
I've never heard that before.
So in in the spirit of who I am, last minute guy, I just looked it up, and well, this article came out on December 7th. So
that's fairly recent.
But this doesn't target Lance Armstrong. It was just associated with the search I did. But it does say, it says hidden motor inventor says he received $2 million in 1998 for exclusivity deal. Speaking 2 days in advance of a 60-minute special on the use of technological fraud or mechanical doping in cycling, the inventor of the hidden motors has said such devices may have been in the pro peloton for almost 20 years. Istvan Vargas has told, I'm sure I got that spot on, has told 60 Minutes that he designed a motor in 1998 and was offered nearly $2 million for a 10-year exclusivity deal. Under that agreement, he agreed not to work on such motors nor to sell them or speak of them. He agreed not to work on such motors. That doesn't make any sense to me. Am I misunderstanding that? Under that agreement, he agreed not to work on such motors nor to sell them or speak of them.
Okay.
So they're paying him not to work on motors?
Okay, so I'm coming in completely cold.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
fair.
looking at any of your information.
It's just
here.
words on a computer screen. There's no pictures or diagrams.
No, but from what you've said so far, there's the potential of somebody like UCI going, hey, we know you've developed this technology. We don't want it getting into the peloton.
Okay.
So maybe maybe UCI pays them $2 million.
Well, let me finish real quick.
No, okay.
It's not a very long article, so bear with me just a second.
Sure.
He told 60 Minutes that he believes the motors were used during that time frame. The Hungarian inventor has absolved himself of any blame, saying that it is not his responsibility if pro riders used such a machine. In quotes, if a grandfather came and buy a bike, this is his grammar, not mine, and after its go-to, his grandson who is racing, it's not my problem, he said to 60 Minutes. And when asked if he would sell such a machine to someone who said to him they were going to use it to cheat, he answered, if the money is big, why not? 60 Minutes quotes triple Tour de France winner Greg LeMond, who has long spoken out against doping and more recently against such motors. This is curable. This is fixable. I don't trust it until they figure out how to take the motor out. I won't trust any victories of the Tour de France, he stated. And there has been a lot of speculation about a lot of the top-level racers, and especially Tour de France in the past couple of years, to mechanical doping as well. That's just my interjection here.
Understood.
In October, Vargas first suggested long-term use of hidden motors in the peloton during an interview with the Irish radio show Off the Ball. It was the end of 98, and I had to stay quiet until 2009 for 10 years. It was time for sleeping 10 years, he told the journalist Ger Gilroy. This article's on Velo, by the way. In 1998, I sold just one prototype to my friend. I got big money. I just go to sleep for 10 years, and I don't do anything. This one was the first generation of these kind of motors because these motors came from a military application. At that time, it was able to miniaturize with powerful magnets. These motors became very small. You could put in any place. When you have a construction, you can put it in any kind of bicycle. It is not a problem. It is just a matter of budget. That's almost over. Asked as to how much the prototype cost him, he said that he spent more than $80,000 US dollars in making it. Lance Armstrong, here's where it comes in, who won the Tour de France from 99 to 2005, but was later stripped of those victories, has denied using such a device. However, it remains to be seen if 60 Minutes will offer any information to counter this. The 60 Minutes report will be broadcast in the U.S. this coming Sunday at 7 p.m. So I guess I missed it. It didn't come on my radar.
Okay.
But I did see a blip the other day, a video of specific cuts of the tour when Lance was winning and stuff, and they were talking about how they think he was what they call it, mechanical doping. And this is another article here too, but
well, I'm not going to say it didn't happen, but there's nothing there that even approaches any sort of evidence. All that is some guy saying, I sold something for $2 million.
Yeah. That's fair. That's
so
fair.
Without any sort of verifiable evidence of some sort, it's like, well, anybody can say anything.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not. I guess what I'm saying is, I never even considered the fact that there was possible mechanical doping going on back then. There's been quite a few instances. I can't remember who. It wasn't Cancellara. I'll think of his name in a minute, but I remember a specific incident in the tour.
The one in like 14 or 15 when
he wrecked and his wheel was still spinning.
And the crank was still spinning. Yeah. That one's been brought up numerous times.
Yeah.
And that one's still split 50-50 where people go, there are ways that could be happening from the momentum. And
well, if you had a free hub body that needed to be rebuilt, that wasn't freewheeling properly, that could totally do it. But at a high level of racing, you think that these guys,
unless the crash itself damaged it to some extent.
I don't see how that's possible.
I'm saying.
Yeah, but that is the most evident, at least in appearance.
That's the closest to evidence that I've seen myself. Now, make no mistake, I think it's completely plausible that, I mean, obviously the Peloton's been cheating physically.
Yeah.
For decades.
Yeah, I mean, pushing the envelope and then cheating. Yes. Yeah.
So to
just to add another layer.
To expect that mechanical cheating to not be involved, that's unrealistic.
Well, here's my thought process, and this is where I was going with this is, the UCI and all these governing bodies have, USAC and what's the USADA. They go and test all these guys. They take their specimen after victories. They weigh everybody's bikes. It has to be a minimum weight, like to the point where bikes were getting too light, and so they were literally putting lead tape on them so they could make the minimum weight. So if they're going through all that trouble to inspect everything, it would make sense that they would X-ray bikes.
They have been.
Right. So that begs my question. My lead in here is like, how could someone mechanical dope if their bike is being inspected unless there's a bike swap after the inspection? Which is plausible, I'm sure.
I mean,
if there's a way to cheat, people are going to figure it out. But I struggle with that,
Okay, but make no mistake. High-level riders. I'm not saying the highest level. I'm not saying Tour de France. I'm talking about the people we associate with. Mm-hmm. Those high-level riders are fighting for 1 or 2 watts of advantage.
Yeah.
From ceramic speed bearings, from chain lube, from waxing versus this, from completely stripping down their bike and making to have the right aero socks and everything else.
Yeah.
So if they're fighting for 1 or 2 watts here and there.
And they can gain 50 watts from something else. Yeah.
If they gain 20.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a 5 horsepower motor that's going the whole time.
Yeah.
It could be a completely carbon fiber mechanical advantage device of some sort that maybe doesn't even show up in an X-ray or something. And
fucking aliens, bro.
Well, I'm just saying, if you just need 10 watts of boost.
Yeah. Well, 10 watts isn't going to do anything. I mean, when these guys are cranking out, 600, 700 watts, but if you look at some of these.
If they're fighting for 2 watts here and there, 10 watts pays off. 10 watts for a duration of 60 minutes, that pays off.
Yeah. I could see that, but man, when you look at like Vanderpool's numbers this last year, I mean, he was cranking like 740 watts for like 15 minutes. I mean, it's crazy.
I get that.
And I'm probably way off on those numbers, so excuse me, but
I follow what you're saying. All I'm saying is, for it to be a mechanical advantage, it doesn't have to be
substantial. Yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah. It's just something that wasn't even on my radar. And so when I saw this video, I was like, what? But I mean, it's totally plausible, but I've never been of the cheating mind. So it's hard for me to put myself in that frame of mind. You know, it's my wife and I have this conversation all the time. People rationalize stuff that's irrational to me all the time. Like,
oh, sure.
Like people that rob banks think, well, I need it more than they do, or whatever their thought is. And I can't.
It's insured. Nobody's really getting hurt here.
And you know, people that beat their wife or whatever bad things go on. I struggle to put myself in that frame of mind, and I think it's a healthy thing. But
okay. But here's where I'm going to disagree with you. I'm not going to give any specificity to it. Everybody rationalizes something. There's something that you do. I'm not saying that it's wrong, immoral, illegal, or there's something you do that most people would think you shouldn't do. Makes perfect sense to you.
Sure. I mean,
it's just an extrapolation of that to a greater degree for
I'm
whatever.
Far from perfect. I'm not even insinuating that I'm perfect, but
you're pretty close. You're closer than most.
Whatever. But that brings me to my next topic. Speaking of mechanical doping, our buddy Mr. Shannon, is getting an e-bike. It's the end of an era. I told him, I said, I guess I'm going to have to stop shitting on e-bike riders because I love you so much.
No, now it's time to shit on them even more.
But I've struggled with this for quite some time. Like, I mean, I'm just a curmudgeon at this point. You know, I'm almost a Luddite, I guess. And I mean, it's foolish to not think that e-bikes are the way of the future, but I've yet to have any extended experience on one, and I'm borderline scared.
So why is he going that direction?
Man, that's a good question.
Okay. No, I don't want you to assume on his behalf.
Well, we did have the discussion, and there was a number of reasons, and I guess the main reason that made sense to me.
This could make for an interesting
conversation. Yeah.
Is he coming to town anytime soon?
Nah, I doubt it. But he did boil it down to there's a huge contingent of e-bike riders in his area,
in his circle,
and they have a group ride every week that's all e-bikes, and they're just ripping and having fun.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. And I guess
it's not peer pressure; it's the social interaction of it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a growing thing. I know in Bentonville they have weekly rides that are all e-bike as well. So,
before I forget, since you touched on something that just kicked off a reminder in my head, so I can say something about bicycles.
Please do.
Instead of food or Jeeps or ducks or
Subarus. Ducks. Rubber ducks.
Rubber ducks.
Shit, you lost me for a second.
I saw, I think in one of the Austin groups, somebody allude to jumps coming down in Bentonville. Are you aware of that? I'm not either. Hey, anybody listening that can fill us in? shiftlesslive@gmail.com. Hey, squirrels, how you doing?
I would highly doubt that they're taking anything down. In
drops. I'm sorry, drops, not jumps. Drops. They took supposedly one of the main drop areas got turned into rollers.
Well, I could see where you would want to, because a lot of those drops. I mean, there's no reason for it to look like a dock at the end of a.
I don't know the specifics. It seemed like the people that were involved in that thread knew exactly what was going on, but I did not. So I was just seeing if that was anything you were aware of.
No, I mean, I don't see a reason for a drop to not be a roller. Like if you roll up to the end of it and you decide to bail at the last second, there's no sense in you dropping 8 feet, you know.
I don't know if they were 2-foot drops or 8-foot drops or
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
I was just saying that. But
and that's what I was trying to get at. What was changed and for what reasons?
yeah, that I don't know.
Sure. Shiftlesslive@gmail.com if you know the poop and the scoop on this one. But I mean, going back to
E-bikes.
Shannon or anybody morphing towards the e-bike side of things, I don't begrudge anyone that. I still struggle with personally. It's that's not why I ride a bike, sort of thing.
Right.
But I'm not saying it's wrong for anyone else to think it's for whatever reasons it's the that if an e-bike's right for you, an e-bike's.
My question is, when you ride an e-bike, does the beer taste as good after the ride? I mean, at the end of the day, I ride my bike, because it's fun, and I like to talk shit, and I like to drink beer afterwards.
Okay.
And if you're riding behind a guy and he's on an e-bike and you're on an e-bike, I mean, I guess it comes down to handling skills at that point, you know? I don't know. I need more research into this area.
Well, see, and I'm still caught up in. I don't understand the comparison perspective of it because there's so many variations of capability from one e-bike to the next.
Mm.
So yes, if you are two people on the exact same bike,
yeah.
Hey, my skills are better than yours, or
right.
whatever.
Like a NASCAR kind of template.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So, sure, when you're on an analog bike, traditional bike, non-e-bike,
muscle bike,
whatever. I mean, obviously, the bike itself plays a factor, but its vast majority of it's the rider. Now, a rider's fitness can outweigh bike handling skills to some extent, make up for, or lack thereof.
Trail knowledge.
So all those pieces, it's a whole package deal.
Sure.
My perception is that once you throw the e-bike into the equation, it's more about the bike than the rider in a lot of situations.
But but at that point it becomes more about handling skills than it does about fitness. Processing rate, how well you see the trail, how well you pick lines, how well you hold momentum,
but
all that stuff.
That's a byproduct of the bike more so.
I don't think so. I mean, I get what you're saying. The bike is assisting, but you still have to. Here's the thing. I've ridden with guys before that have incredible fitness that could, on a straight line on a road, could just absolutely leave me alone. Sure. But you get them on the trail, they can't turn. They can't climb. They can't go through rock gardens. They can't.
There's also the phase of where you're potentially overcommitting physically to keep a pace.
Where your bike handling skills deteriorate.
Yes. So I think there's a lot of the people you're referring to there. I think their balance of physical effort overriding mental capability to some extent. They're in the red zone. I think that plays a factor there. So take some of those red zone guys and give them an e-bike. Their bike handling skills could go up substantially because they're out of red zone.
Yeah.
And
that's fair because my handling skills go, I mean, last night I was pushing hard and I had to back off just because I was so redlined that I was not processing well enough. So
that's one of those things when you get deep into that, you're not even aware of it.
Yeah.
It's when you bounce off that root ball on the tree and you go, wait, how the hell did I hit that? I never hit that. It's like, I need
fatigue.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I hate to say it, but now that one of my best friends is getting an e-bike, it makes me more curious. But it also, I don't know. I don't know why I'm such a vehement opposer to e-bikes. I guess it's just I'm part of the old guard, I guess.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm not against e-bikes. I'm against the rubber duck e-bikers.
I am vehemently opposed to people doing sections on Strava on an e-bike and posting them as an analog bike file. That grates my cheese horribly. But
okay,
there's another version of cheating right there.
Well, are they doing it intentionally to appear, or they're just not worried about anybody else seeing it? I think
I'm just going to sit over here.
I think it goes both ways. Obviously, if somebody's trying to claim a great time on a Strava segment with e-bike assist and not admit to their e-bikedness, that sucks.
It's country.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
But if somebody's just logging Strava while they ride their e-bike, and they're not clicking that they're on an e-bike that time,
deception detected.
I'm not saying it's always deception. Is my point. Like when I do my Strava stuff, I'm not doing it for anything for anyone else to see. I'm doing it for my own record keeping and things like that. So I can see my activities and.
Well, that's you, Kevin. We're not talking about you.
I understand.
We're talking about other people doing deceptive things.
All I'm saying is there are some people that are deceptive, and there's another group of people that just they may not be ticking the e-bike box because they're not worried about the time itself themselves.
You're far too gracious.
So you think everybody on Strava is...
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But there are a large contingent of people that have in the past. I think people are getting better about flagging stuff. Because you can flag sections on Strava. You can flag people's rides that...
Sure.
I mean, there's been... Just North Shore, for just one example, there's been people put down times there that are astronomical. And you go and look at every section, like all their segments, and you're just like, there's no way. And then you go and look further into this person, and they have multiple pictures of them on e-bikes and blah, blah, blah.
But is that person bragging about their times, or are they just posting times?
They're posting KOM times. They're destroying other people's hard... So...
a KOM's different.
Yeah.
If you're
KOMing every segment and you're posting it as an analog ride and you're in fact on an e-bike, that's deception, whether it's intentional or not.
No, I'm just saying the KOM aspect of it does take it to a different level because then you're getting notification. Oh, you've got the KOM.
Yeah.
So that's a different thing. That's a different thing. Yeah. That's douchey as hell right there. Yeah. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
That's what I was getting at. We're finally on the same page.
I was trying. I just thought you meant people on e-bikes posting times that weren't comparable with others. A KOM's a different ball of wax.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and forever ago, before e-bikes were even on our radar, there was, speaking of unintentional, there was a person that I know that was out doing moto pacing for training, and they were Stravaing so they could view all their metrics and everything else, and they posted it, and they had astronomical KOMs on sections that we're very familiar with, and I started looking, I was like, what the fuck? I mean, it was like 35 miles an hour through certain sections and stuff, and you're like, what is going on? And they rescinded everything. They deleted or whatever. It was strictly unintentional. But,
yes.
But
I mean, evidently, I used to do that accidentally myself, like when I was scouting and stuff that. So.
Oh, I've done that before too, where I've left my Strava on when I'm driving home or something.
And now that I think about it, it was stuff that it's like I never got notification that I had a KOM for something. But I had riders coming back to me. It's like I can't get
because you drive like a grandfather. I'm kidding.
Yes, I do. Ron Wadley, I drive like a grandfather. Yes, I do.
So Shannon, we're happy for you, buddy.
What's he getting? Do we know?
Shit, he told me. Orbea Rise? Is that right?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think that's what it is.
That sounds like something that's out there.
Yeah.
The name sounds familiar, but
And he's getting a range extender for it too, which gives you, not only does it give you more range, it gives you more power on tap.
You talked about your pathless pedaled electronic shifting video a couple weeks back.
Did you see the Instagram video I sent you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Wireless brakes are a thing.
They are a thing.
I want my money.
That was the most hobbled together shit I've ever seen in my life, though.
I didn't look that closely. So
you didn't watch the video?
It was a reel. It just showed like 5 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, it was longer because it gave a link to, you could actually order them and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
So I was watching on my phone, and it was a reel that just showed 5 seconds and kept rewinding, replaying the same thing.
Yeah, but he was talking about how it's got servos, and I was like, man, I know this is the initial iteration, but I'm like, all I could think of is how heavy and prone to failure is this, and how much do you trust it? You know?
Exactly.
But
I mean, hey, Gen 1.
Got to start somewhere.
But
that popped up on my feed, and I was like, oh my God, first person I sent, Kevin.
Another video that I saw out there was a guy that was kind of touching on the problems with e-bikes and e-bike technology. Mm-hmm. But it essentially it goes back to our favorite whipping post, the incompatibility, and how everything's so built for. Specialized has their version of this, Giant has that.
Yeah.
And the range extenders and the batteries and the motors. That's the problem with e-bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's compatible with anything else.
Yeah.
And everything, if you buy this e-bike with this range extender this year, 2 years from now, Trek's doing a totally different thing.
Yeah.
You can't replace that part or get, or whatever. And I'm saying Trek just as a generic example. I'm not throwing Trek under the bus again. But that was a very valid point. It's like none of this stuff is compatible with each other. So it's particularly, and you can't use the same charger on different bikes and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And it was something I hadn't thought about along those lines. And particularly in our community where N+1 is such a big deal, that's a huge issue. And the range extender you mentioned that Shannon was getting was a perfect example of it. And he like put up 5 different range extenders, and it's like, I have to label each one of these because I lose track of which one goes with what and which charger you use to charge it with and things like that.
I think that's the one that Shannon's going to get right there.
Okay.
But our buddy Bragg is on an e-bike, and I think there's probably a dozen people down there that Shannon rides with on a regular basis that are on e-bikes.
That makes all the sense in the world.
But the other thing I can almost justify the thought process is, like, those guys are going to go out and ride the same trails that they normally ride, but they're going to be able to ride them at a faster pace with less fatigue. And so I guess theoretically you could get a little bit more muscle memory of the trail and stuff without being in that red line like we were talking about. And so when you are in that red line, it's a little bit more intuitive, if you will, to take those lines and ride at that speed.
And I mean, that's where we get in the realm of that's outside. That's really outside of Kevin's wheelhouse. Because I mean, I just get beat to death riding the same trail. I can't do it. Yeah. I have no interest in riding
Luna.
outside of just the actual act of riding a trail.
Go inside.
I don't get excited at the prospect of riding North Shore again. I've done all the laps at North Shore that I'm interested in doing, generally speaking.
Shame on you.
That's my point. Different riders have different things. It's part of why. That's why I got into the gravel. I like exploring. I like seeing the new things, and that's all.
I get that.
My type of riding was more. My satisfaction comes from the endurance aspect of it, of riding 6, 8, 10, 12 hours during the course of a day. Not to be in the saddle for that long, to know that my body can actually do that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
That's where my personal sense of satisfaction comes from, riding a bike. But I recognize what I like is different from what you like and what Shannon likes and what anyone else might like. Different strokes for different folks.
But at the same rate, North Shore's been morphing and changing for the last 20, 30 years, know?
I don't disagree with it, but it's for me, it's, yes, I can go out and I can ride a trail and still enjoy it, but I get to the point where it's like, I've done 1,000 laps there. I don't need another one.
Yeah.
But that's what I look for from a bike ride is different from what you look for from a bike ride. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mountain biking isn't your main focus or discipline.
It was until I got tired of it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
I got tired of hot laps, and then it's like it turned into I like the endurance thing.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, to get better at endurance, I don't want to go back and forth on knob hills 18 times. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start riding the road and build up my endurance that way.
Well, that's why I started riding 2 trails.
Understood. And I did a lot of rambling stuff. I did a ton of that. I mean, I did the full Grapevine Lake circuit way back when.
Yeah, same.
And then I was riding road. I was actually enjoying that from the aspect of seeing new things on every ride.
Sure.
And then, everybody we knew were getting hit left and right. And we went through that spell where I think there were like 10 or 12 people killed in a year on bikes around here.
Dude,
and then I found gravel. It's like, oh, okay. This is my jam.
Don't get me wrong. I still love gravel riding. But I'm more inclined to do an event these days than I am to just get on my bike and go out and do a gravel ride.
You are not outside of what I think most people are running into these days. It's kind of funny you bring that up because you asked if I had anything bike to talk about, and I listened to a podcast yesterday. So it's 2 podcasts in the past month I've heard that were titled the same thing. Have we hit peak gravel? Guitar Ted was one of them, and this other podcast, Geek Warning.
On the surface, I'm going to say yes.
I think we hit peak gravel a couple of years ago myself.
But I'm thinking of immediately when you say that, the first thing I think about is the subject we've talked about is the receding of gravel. There's less and less and less gravel. I mean, I remember we used to ride when we were training for DK back in the day, we could get on gravel 2 miles from my house or not even and be on gravel all the way to Decatur, and it was nothing to be on gravel. And I'd say 60% of that at the least has gone away.
I used to, 1.5 miles from my house, I used to be able to catch the first dirt road, which was Old Denton Highway, and from there I could go all the way to Oklahoma, nothing but dirt roads.
Yeah,
that's how I found the Red River Riot stuff around St. Joe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So and obviously that's all receded. So that is part of the equation in that I think we've surpassed peak gravel, but personally I think that's a good thing. The peak gravel was fad gravel. It was a combination of the brand new people that came into cycling from COVID and were just buying bikes and didn't know where to ride, I bought a gravel bike, and the guy at the bike shop said, I can do this.
You can ride that anywhere. Yeah, that's what they tell them.
So a lot of people a couple years ago started riding gravel that way, but that was their introduction to cycling. Yeah. They didn't have the bike handling skills. They didn't have the repair skills. They didn't know how to properly hydrate and fuel themselves and all that good stuff.
Speaking of hydration.
And a lot of those people did not stick around at all.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, they're gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a good thing they're gone. I don't want it to come across that way.
But the core remains. That's what you're getting at.
The people that were into gravel before that are still into gravel for the most part. And some of those people got hooked. There's no doubt about that. So that's why I'm saying I think the peak gravel, as far as the most people involved with it at any given time, I think we passed that over a year ago, probably closer to 2 years ago. But I think the people that are left are definitely into it.
How much innovation is coming into the gravel cycling world though these days compared to where it was even 5 years ago?
Almost zero.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of their conversation.
I mean, Mezcal did just come out with Vittoria did just come out with the Mezcals in a 44, I think, which is pretty awesome to me.
Okay. So, I mean, realistically, the biggest tech innovations in gravel for the past couple years
Tires and wheels.
is clearance.
Yeah.
Now 50 millimeter clearance is fairly standard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was saying that 10 years ago, we need to be in the 45 to 50. We need to be in the 2-inch tire range, realistically.
Yeah.
Not that you roll a 2-inch tire every ride, but you got to have that capability or close to it.
Well, especially when you get into like what happened at Unbound this year. The mud sections and stuff. Clearance is an issue when you go through stuff like that because your frame just clogs up.
If you run a 40 millimeter tire with 50 millimeters of clearance, you can pack a lot of mud.
Yeah. So I mean, I've never thought about that aspect. Like, have we reached peak gravel? I need to listen to those podcasts because I'm curious what they have to say. I don't know. I mean, the bike industry is constantly shifting and trying to invent new things to rope in new dollars,
Sure.
And e-bike is obviously the biggest growing facet of that by a factor of, 5 or 10.
I wonder if it is though. I mean, no, e-bikes are still a big deal. I'm not saying I'm not saying they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the e-bike crowd is the N+1 crowd that the bike industry is used to. So they have a couple choices there. Either turn them into N+1 riders somehow or another.
But I think e-bike riders are N+1 riders because a lot of e-bike riders end up with multiple e-bikes. I know a handful of guys that bought,
Were they new e-bike riders or were they traditional N+1 riders that added an e-bike to them?
That's a fair point. Yes, I think they were all analog riders previous.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting at is I think what they're finding with the new market that the e-bike brought in, that those are not the traditional N+1 riders.
Okay.
So that's been somewhat of a struggle for the bicycle industry. And the bicycle industry is still getting creamed. Kona came out with a BOGO yesterday. Can you believe that?
Wow. No.
Buy a Kona, what's it, a Prospect or something? I think it's a dual suspension mountain bike and get another Kona of equal or lesser value free.
No way.
Yeah, seriously.
Is that on their website? I'm just going to look up.
Hopefully that wasn't an embargo that I shouldn't have mentioned yet. Bear with me a moment here.
I'm looking it up.
I didn't see an embargo date on it. Let me double check. It was through my affiliate stuff.
Oh, here it is. Buy one, get one free full suspension mountain bike 23 hours ago. It's on Bike Rumor.
Yeah.
The picture says N+1 and it shows 2 bikes. How fitting. Buy one, get one free full suspension mountain bikes, ? Kona's N+1 sale is craziest yet. It appears that 2023 is the year of the bike BOGO. Before we even get into this, my son and I were talking about, we were driving back from Oklahoma last weekend, and we were driving by a bunch of dealerships and how just stacked out they are with vehicles. And I go, Gage, you notice how many vehicles there are on the car dealership lots? And he goes, yeah, it's cool. And I go, no, it's not. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, well, everybody's stacked out with inventory. They're still trying to sell 2023s. I go, the car market is about to just implode if they can't figure out what to do with it. And that led us to the bike market and the RV market, like you and I were discussing. And I think, I mean, it's sad to say, but COVID is going to continue to send out waves for a decade plus.
Realistically, it's a generational adjustment. It's a 20-year adjustment. It's going to be 10-year, so it's going to be 2030 before we really know what's different.
Yeah. But I don't know how does the automotive industry, how does the bike industry, this isn't sustainable for Kona to offer a buy one, get one. I get that they're getting full retail, hopefully, for the initial bike, but then you're taking a huge hit on the secondary.
It's a 50% cut in price. It's the only way you can.
But they're moving twice as much inventory.
That's the big deal.
Yeah,
that's the big deal. So instead of cutting the price in half and moving one at a time, we're cutting the price in half and moving two at a time. That makes a big deal when everything you have is we've got to pay off our creditors for everything that's been produced that's stacking up in the warehouses. So that's what that move is, and the 50% off itself that's kind of the norm that we're at. And that's, again,
scary.
It's super scary. Going back to, another one of our pet topics, support your local bike shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard enough for those guys as it is. Mm-hmm. How are they supposed to compete with mail order bikes 50% off?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Support your local bike shop. But I know there's a lot of people that are just going to listen to this and go, why in the hell would I spend $4,000 for a bike there when I can get it for $2,000?
It's a tough quandary.
I can't argue it from a dollars and cents perspective. I can argue it from a Kevin perspective of I suck so bad at my own wrenching that I'm going to get that $2,000 back to begin with, just from good advice and my shop taking care of me. Maybe not $2,000, but I will get my peace of mind's worth out of it, sort of thing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it personally, but I also get it.
Well, listen to this opening on this article. It appears that 2023 is the year of the bike BOGO. That's buy one, get one free, a term that's normally not associated with the purchase of a complete bicycle. Then again, this hasn't been a normal year for sales. As a result of many bike industry brands carrying far too much inventory into the new year, we're seeing Black Friday deals that started well before Black Friday transition into fire sales as bike brands try to move aging products.
Yeah.
That's, in a nutshell, that's what we've been discussing. But.
Yeah, it's bikes.
Mm-hmm.
It's cars, it's RVs, and man,
I'm sure there's tons of other stuff that we're not even aware of.
Pretty much everything. And I think, we're going way off the bike topic, but it's somewhat bike related. I saw more property for sale signs yesterday when I was verifying the holiday ramble routes than I've seen up that way in forever. All of this stuff comes together. I'm not preaching gloom and doom. I'm just saying we've shifted.
Yeah.
What the traditional business model that everybody was familiar with in the 20th century, it's morphing into the 21st century model that we don't know exactly what it is yet.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. It's scary times. That's all I'm going to say. Scary times.
Can't think of a better time to ride a bike, though.
No shit.
Or
a better time to buy a bike.
It's a fantastic time to buy a
bike. If you've ever been in the market for a bike,
+1.
That's so crazy.
And that brings up kind of what we were talking about the e-bikes and lack of N+1 in that territory. What gravel has done, still, it is the gateway drug for N+1. Gravel still, but it's not universal. It's not across the board. It doesn't apply to everybody. But gravel still takes road riders and gets some of them interested in mountain biking.
Yeah,
and that's been a focus of parts of the bike industry this year, and I think it's something they're concentrating on, is trying to sell traditional, more cross-country traditional mountain bikes to the road people that are evolving towards gravel. But it goes the other way as well. There are mountain bikers that ride gravel and kind of like my history of, maybe I should start riding road. I don't think there's
I think that's the biggest facet of cycling that's dying is road cycling.
I think so myself. Maybe I'm wrong. Ultimately, what it boils down to, road biking's not going to get safer. One of the big allures of gravel has been it's safer than traditional road riding. Kind of what you were talking about, that you can see still doing a gravel event every once in a while, sort of thing. But as far as just hopping out your back door and going knock out 100 miles of gravel, that doesn't really happen anymore. I think a lot of people are up against that. Of the aspect of, if you live in a larger metro area and the people from California are moving in, then a lot of that gravel's going away. That's one aspect of it. The one that I've seen that's really interesting to me is how few people know or are interested. I think it's better. A lot of people just have no interest in finding where to ride gravel. They just want to show up at a spot and know there's going to be 100 other people there that day, and we're going to ride gravel roads together.
Yeah.
Most riders don't want to go through the effort to
route find
their own route or make it work. And that's something, because I'm so enamored with doing stuff like that.
I was about to say, that was initially my interest in gravel riding, was the exploration.
Yes.
Well, let's just go down this road.
Yeah.
Or like the route that McAfee spec'd via Google Maps, and we went up to circumnavigate Broken Bow Lake.
The Broken Bow stuff.
Just looking at something on a map and being able to process it a little bit, try to put together a route, and then go out and, like you do, proof it in a vehicle, but we would always just proof it on a bike, And if we ran into something that was unpassable, we'd figure out a way around it, And that's kind of where rambling started for me too, is just sheer exploration, trying to string stuff together, trying to put cool elements in, just figuring out a way to get from here to there, with as little road as possible and that kind of stuff,
Or how do I get around this bridge that's down, sort of thing. And that's exactly how I got started in all of it. It was just, hey, I wonder what's down this road, and it keeps going, and this is really cool. And there's a fork in the road. Do I go left or do I go right? Well, let's find out.
Yeah.
Or, dead end. Let's start over.
Yeah.
And for me, that's always been very fascinating and very interesting. But that's definitely not the majority of the cycling population that's out there.
Well, make no mistake, we have the most diverse cycling community ever right now. I mean, just the introduction of e-bikes changes the whole game, period. But you've got gravel riders, you've got mountain bikers, you've got backpackers, you've got drop bar mountain bike guys, you've got, randonneers and touring, and you got the pathless pedaled guy, you got the Berm Peak Express. Those people exist in the same universe,
Yep.
And it's more diverse than it's ever been. But there's a place for everybody. So
that's what's cool about it. It wasn't that long ago that you were either a roadie or you were a mountain biker.
Right.
It was basically that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, make no mistake. Even back then, there were people that were doing their own thing and didn't necessarily fall into the cookie cutter aspect of it. But the generalization was one or the other. The diversity of things and the acceptance and the recognition of the diversity of it all is what's really cool right now. And again, going back to are we past peak gravel? Yeah, but I think that's a good thing, because I think people are finding their own groove and things that, it's okay. I did that 200-mile thing, and I can take that off my bucket list, but I really found out I like this aspect of it. And I think the bikepacking side of things is kind of finding its groove right now in a very positive way. But that's also getting super interesting, in that now we're to the point where people are defining bikepacking and bike camping, so many different
bike racing.
So many different aspects to it right now. I'm still not a gigantic fan of the bike pack racing thing from an organizer standpoint. I'm not against people doing it. I don't want to sound like that. There's definitely stuff out there for people to do that are into that aspect.
Come on, Race Across Texas is a bikepacking race.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. That's not what it was designed for. Yeah. There's an audience that wants to do it that way, and they're welcome to.
Yeah.
I built it for the people that wanted to see all the stuff along the way, not for the people that wanted to ride through the night and sleep in the ditch.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking the people that want to ride through the night and sleep in the ditch.
Well, I mean, Tour Divide, or isn't that they call it now, Tour Divide? That's the same thing. There's people that go out and just tour it, and there's people that go out and just absolutely annihilate it.
They want to set their FKT.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I don't have anything against that. The Tasha, the Butterfield, stuff like, I'm not designing it for the people that want to do the FKT, but I recognize that people
want to do that. Yeah.
People want to do an FKT on routes like that, and they're welcome to. That's a different thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you put together a route, someone's always, I mean, even like digesting Big Bend after we were 3 hours away driving, started talking about, man, what if you strung all that together and put it on as a single day? Like what kind of time could people put down? You know, anytime you put together a route,
sure,
somebody's going to go, man, I bet this could be done in X hours, you know?
And again, that's fantastic for the people that want to do that. I'm not knocking it at all.
Yeah.
But in turn, and we've touched on it before, from my perspective as an organizer, the people that want to do that, you don't have to cater to them.
Right. They're going to find you.
They're going to find. For me, it's kind of backwards from my perspective to, well, let's build everything around
an FKT
group, the pointy end of the
spear,
of the spear thing, because they're the people that are going to be drawn to that regardless. What we need to do a better job of, generally speaking, is the rest of the field and make sure that they're getting the experience that they're wanting out of it. Because the FKT people, they're going to be miserable, and they're going to be having fun in their misery, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a type 3 fun. I don't even know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't relate to it. It's never been a driver for me personally.
So I know this is no surprise to you, but there's another thing that I didn't even think about. Mondraker is a brand of bikes that's now making e-bikes for kids. And that's a whole nother thing that I'd never even thought about. Now we're going to start indoctrinating children onto e-bikes. Yeah.
5 and 6-year-old kids, or like 12 and 14-year-old? What's the size bike or the size wheel? Or
I'm looking right now, and I haven't actually seen a child's e-bike on here yet. The Play e-bike comes in lots of wheel sizes to fit many young riders. Pretty much the only difference for the e-bike hardtails is a slightly larger down tube that drops a bit steeper. I'm just seeing. So this looks like a 16-inch bike that's an e-bike. Oh, a 20. Play 20 e-bike. So it's a 20-inch mountain bike. It's a full-blown mountain bike, but it's full rigid, it looks like.
I'm back to why.
Yeah, that's my thought exactly. Why am I surprised, or
no? What is the target market? Who?
Well, I'll tell you. Daddy has an e-bike, and I want to ride with him. I want to be like Daddy. I don't know. I need to quit being such a curmudgeon about e-bikes.
I'm not being.
I am. I'm being a curmudgeon.
And maybe isn't that a problem we have with the growth of the cycling community already, is that kids don't ride bikes like they did when we were kids.
Yeah. I was talking to Gage about this. I can't remember how we got into this conversation, but and you and me, our age bracket totally gets this, but I was explaining to Gage that when we were kids, we didn't have cell phones and internet and all that stuff, and we rode our bikes everywhere. I would ride my bike and I'd be like, I wonder where Johnny is today. and I'd ride around the neighborhood, and I'd see his bike out front of somebody's house. I'd just throw my bike down and go in,
Yep.
and you know, that was kind of like a little flag that we had, like, hey, I'm here. My bike would be parked out front, you know. Or you would talk to somebody the day before and go, hey, I think we're going to go over to so-and-so, you know, meet us up there. You didn't call them and say, hey, we're going here. It was just, I'm going to go ride my bike and find my friends,
Right,
you know.
right.
That was kind of the way we ran back then. And that, I mean, obviously, you know, we were all nostalgic for things that happened when we were younger, but those times have been long gone, and it makes me more than sad, you know. But now we have a standing ride every Tuesday, and I know where my boys are going to be,
Sure,
you know.
sure.
So I guess that's some semblance of the same.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
It's the matured version of that same vibe. There's no doubt about that. Ultimately, there's just too many cars on the road for kids to ride bicycles these days.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, I could ride all over North Arlington on all the neighborhood roads, and I might see 5 or 6 cars on those roads during the day. You know, sure, if it's 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, when everyone's coming home from work or whatever, there's going to be more traffic sort of thing. But
Yeah.
middle of the day, just riding neighborhood roads. I mean, in my neighborhood, I have a car going by my house every 35 seconds,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, population density is a huge deal. Back to bike packing. I want to put bags on my bike and go for a ride. I think at the beginning of the year, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Once Christmas, Christmas dust settles. And
Where are you going to go?
I don't know. It depends on what the weather's doing, really.
What is your ideal trip? Is it leaving from the garage?
I mean, from a selfish standpoint, yes, but from an adventure standpoint, no.
Okay. Let's narrow that. Let's walk through this.
Yeah,
Let's walk through this.
I mean, I want to. I still have aspirations of putting together. I'm ashamed to say I have not looked at your 200-mile route that you put together around the area.
I don't think that's your jam. And don't get me wrong. You could do it. I don't. And you would be all right. That was all right. But
I mean, I want to do stuff like that because I can do that from the garage, you know.
Understood.
And once again, that's something that's already established. I don't have to go out and figure it out.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I can put it on my computer and I can go out and do it. But I want to do it casually. You know, I'm not an FKT guy.
Sure.
That window, if it ever even existed for me, is far long gone. But the memory of Triple Crown just came up on my Facebook feed a couple of days ago, and like that's still that and Arkansas High Country were probably, I mean, and Wood Ape Ramble. Those are all just incredible adventures to me. But part of it was the people, and the route. Obviously, Arkansas High Country. That was more people and elements and just having a good time and figuring it out. Triple Crown was just the sheer challenge and just great terrain and once again good people. And then Wood Ape Ramble is just the sheer kick in the nuts and just being on roads that people hadn't been on in 50 years and just being in the middle of nowhere and looking around and going, damn, this is Oklahoma. Like it seemed like we were in Colorado at points, you know.
What if somebody shuttled you to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and you rode from Fort Smith, Arkansas to your house? Would that interest you?
Hell yes. Hell yes. Yes. 100 times yes. Yeah. But that goes back to what I was just saying, the people. I don't want to do it by myself.
Understood.
You know. And that becomes increasingly difficult, you know, because you know, within my group of probably a dozen people that I love to go do stuff like that with, it's so difficult to coordinate schedules.
It's almost impossible. Yeah. You literally have to plan it 6 to 12 months in advance.
Yeah. And then if you do that, then, you know, it comes week of and you're like, well, the weather's shit, you know. And you've been looking forward to something for 6 weeks.
Rangers are in the World Series.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that too. But I don't know. I want to put bags on my bike and go just ride.
All right. Well, here's what I'm planning to do sometime in the next several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put the 4-bike Kuat rack on my truck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go to Fort Smith, Arkansas with 3 riders in the truck and 3 bikes on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to drop them off in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And then I'm going to meet them along the way.
When?
I haven't nailed it down yet.
Okay.
I haven't nailed it down yet. I've got.
Well, keep me in the loop.
Goes
without saying.
Here's what I'm proposing.
Okay.
If that's something that interests you, I've got feedback from about 10 people right now that are kind of interested in it, but various mileages that they're able to do and how short a notice and so forth. If you give me your ideal framework, I will put it out to that group and say, here's what we're doing. Who can do this? And if you say that you want to do these dates, this many miles a day, this many days, that's what I will put out there, and we'll see if we can get a couple other people, or who knows, maybe I'll talk my lovely bride into throwing a bike rack on her car, and maybe we can take more than 3 riders.
Stand by, I'm looking at my calendar.
How many miles a day would tickle your fancy for something like that?
I mean, I'd be ecstatic to get 80 miles a day.
Okay.
You know,
Mr. Waldschmidt is on board for 85 miles a day. That's what? That's 3 days. 3 days of riding.
Okay. What's the here's where my brain and your brain are not going to be on the same page. What's the camping situation along the way? Because I don't want a hotel. I want to bike pack it.
No. One option is our wildlife management area that we drove through that had camping there.
Yeah.
That would be a long...
First day? Or is that a second day thing?
I think that would be a long first day.
I need to look at the route and kind of earmark.
But I'm saying I've got other stuff that could potentially be campable as well. Basically, our turnaround town, if we can find... There was a city lake just south of there, city park. I haven't looked for camping yet.
Yeah.
We can find camp. Worst case scenario, I can find a hip camp or something like... No, I already tried that. No, I tried Airbnb.
What does that mean, a hip camp? What do you mean by that?
Hip camp, it's kind of like Airbnb for campsites. It's private properties that open their land up to camping.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that term. Yeah, I'd be down. Like, first week of January is probably the best week for me, but then again, weather is always a factor. I don't want to do it when it's 28 degrees.
Understood.
You know? I mean, I don't need weather conditions to be perfect, but I also don't want to...
You don't want them to be miserable.
Yeah, I don't want to be miserable.
No, I understand that.
But I want to look at the route, too. I've just got so much shit going on.
Is it already starting to rain? I thought that wasn't supposed to start till tomorrow.
Is it starting to rain?
Yeah.
No, I caught a raindrop on the way back from dropping Paula off. Let me look at the radar. Yeah, it's spotty all around us.
I still need to, like I said, fill in that 10-mile hole. I've got it mapped out. I just need to verify it.
Yeah. Wow, we're supposed to get some big rain on Friday.
Oh, is it big rain now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, pushing an inch. I guess that's not that much, but you know.
That's a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
What time's that supposed to kick in? Any idea?
Oh shit.
I'll look because I got a marked course on Friday, so that weather is always a factor.
Looks like 5 a.m. is when it starts to build.
Oh, of course it's coming. So maybe I need to mark course tomorrow.
Looks like it's peaking at 10 a.m.
Okay.
So, and then just going to carry out through the day, just die down. But yeah, it is starting to rain. Huh. All right. Well, I think I've said enough about bikes anyways. We talked about bikes today.
We talked about bikes a good bit, and I'm going to edit out some of the stuff that we didn't talk about bikes.
Y'all have a good day. Go ride your damn bike.